and welcome to day 3 of the Strixhaven spoilers. We did have a day off in between that was just them going and unveiling the all arts from Mystical Archives, so I didn't really unveil any of those cards. If there was any uncommons or commons that were also unveiled, or any cards in general unveiled on that day, I just went and combined it here. Before we get into the video though, just wanted to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe on the channel. Also, you can follow me on Twitch, Instagram, on Twitter, and on Twitter, all underneath Jarvis_Moonbeam. You could also join my Discord by following the link in the description. But let's get into these wonderful cards. The first card is Elite Spellbinder. This is the card that was made for Paulo Vitor Demo da Rosa, who won the World Championship. It's a 3/1 human cleric with flying. That when it enters the battlefield, look at target opponent's hand. You may exile non-land card from it. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. It just costs 2 more to cast. I'm not a huge fan of it. For 3 mana, I'd rather go in standard currently. I'd rather play Skyclave Apparition, where they just don't get the spell at all. Taxing opponents is nice. In the long run, it's just not going to make a big enough difference, and the fact that it has a small, low toughness makes it not that desirable for me. Rip Apart is red and white sorcery. Choose one of the 2 modes, either deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is probably going to be a good sideboard card, because it does have the flexibility. It has a downside of being a sorcery, so that's why I would only play it in the sideboard. But it does very abradish things, but abradish is at least an instant. Definitely a sideboard in standard. Don't know how much more play it's going to see outside of that. Venerable Warsinger, 1 red and white, a spirit cleric. Vigilance Trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to player, you may return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of damage Venerable Warsinger dealt to that player. This card is quite good. It gives recursion to Boros where Boros doesn't traditionally have it. Buffing this and getting a big beater out of the graveyard is also very nice. I would play this in most formats that I play, which Commander, Standard, Limited. Don't really delve too much into Historic, but even if I would play Historic, I would play this in there as well, most likely, just for the recursion effect. Just be able to pump it, like, play this in Boros beaters with Rimrock Knight, and you just went and able to get a 5-drop back. It's definitely worthwhile. And you'll see the spirit creature type. Spirits are really a main theme of this Boros in this set, so you'll see that quite a bit. Semester's End. It's an instant for 3 and a white that you exile any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of the next end step, return each of them to the battlefield under its owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, and an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. I love this card. I don't know how standard playable it is, just because of standard being a bit strange when it comes to board wipes, but this is like a perfect commander card. It protects against board wipes, it flickers for ETBs, and it is possible that you will see this in standard in a Yorion Blink build, but this card is very good. I'm super high on it. I enjoy it a lot. Academic Probation is 1 and a white. It is a lesson that 1, you choose a non-land card name. Opponents can't cast spells with the chosen name until your next turn. Or 2, choose target non-land permanent until your next turn. It can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. I don't know how much I like this in a constructed format. If you have hand knowledge, it might be good. Where I really like this is in limited. The downside to it is a rare. So with it being a rare, you're not going to get very many of it. It's not really playable in most places. Thunderous Orator, 1 and a white. It's a core wizard. Whenever it has vigilance or whenever it attacks, it gains flying until end of turn if you control a creature with flying. The same is true for first strike, double strike, death touch, indestructible, lifelink, menace, and trample. It's a 2/2. I like this a lot. There's a, what was it, Odric? I don't remember the card name, but there was another card that does something very similar to this. It's really good. It's really good to have that ability on there. This is going to be playable in probably many formats. I know I will at least be trying to get this in limited as much as possible. Aegis Guardian is a 1 and a white spirit soldier. It's a 1/4. Vanilla creatures don't really need much explanation. Beaming Defiance. It's 1 and a white. Instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains hexproof until end of turn. These give hexproof cards like Snakeskin Veil are really good and limited. They don't see play in constructor formats, but this is a very good limited card. Dueling Coach for 3 and a white. It's a creature monk that when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And then for 4 and a white, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. And it's a 2/2. It's a mana sink, and mana sinks in limited are very good because once you get into the later game, it's very hard to go and keep your hand refilled. I don't think it sees much play past that. Maybe if you're doing a +1/+1 counters build in Commander, but right now I don't even know. It's not worth even playing in that Selesnya counters deck that was going around for a while. Future Potential Potion is a single green. It's an instant. You gain 2 life, and target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So the floor for this is your creature gets +2/+2. But if you have other ways to gain life in your deck, it can get much larger. Combat tricks like this, though, they don't really see play outside of limited. Stonebound Mentor for 1, a red and a white. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, scry 1. So it is a Spirit Advisor, and it's a 3/3. A theme of Boros in this set is trying to get cards to leave your graveyard. If you're able to build around Boros in a limited format, this is a card you must have. This could even be good in other formats as well, depending on what you're building. It could be good, could not be good. We'll see where the formats lead, but definitely if you're playing Boros, you're playing this. Return Pass Caller, 3, a red, Boros, and a white. This mana cost is so weird. It's a Spirit Cleric that has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, return target Spirit, instant, or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. There's that nice recursion I'm talking about. It is 6 mana, so I don't know how much you'd want to play it at 6 mana, but it's still a decent card. Radiant Scroll Wielder for 2, a red and a white. Instants and sorceries you control have lifelink. It's a Dwarf Cleric, by the way. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. You may cast it this turn. If a spell cast this way would be put in your graveyard, exiled instead. So, I like this card a lot. I like that it gives your instants and sorcery spells you control lifelink. It's pretty cool to build with like a burn style deck. What I don't like about this card is that this is a card that works better on Arena than it does in paper because it's at random. So randomly you have to pull out all your instants and sorceries, see how many you have, roll a die, or do something to randomize which one you're playing. It's cumbersome, it makes the games take longer. I don't like the randomness of it because of that, but I like the lifelink of it. That would be my biggest complaint. Lorehold Excavation, a red and a white. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, mill a card. If a land card was built this way, you gain a life. Otherwise, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. For 5 generic, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Pretty nice card. Playable in limited for sure. Playable in standard possibly. But you get that spirit synergy, you get the mana dump. It's decent. This one is the one that I am the most excited about that we've seen so far. It is an Elephant Cleric that is a legendary creature. It's going to be a commander. I can't wait to see if I can brew a deck that I want to play around him. But it's Quintorius, Field Historian, 3 a red and a white. That spirits you control get +1/+0. And whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. It's a 2/4. So, if you were involved in Commander Legends, or even kept up with some of the uncommon commanders from that set, one of them was Tormod the Desecrator. Tormod brings, when you have a card leave your graveyard, you get a 2/2 tapped zombie. This is a 3/2 red and white spirit that isn't tapped. Now, it's easier to go and do that recursion in black than it is in red and white, but it seems like Strixhaven is giving us a lot of abilities to go and get more recursion going. I'm super excited. I want to wait until the entire set is spoiled, so that way I can see what I can do with cards in this set, and then I want to brew around this in an instant. Velomachus Lorehold, 5 a red and a white. It's the Elder Dragon for this school. It is flying, vigilant, and hasty. That whenever it attacks, you look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to its power from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This card is better than the Orzhov variant of this card. It still probably isn't going to be playable, but let me rephrase that. It's still probably not going to be playable in Standard. It's going to make a very fun commander. I like the card. I really do. I just don't. I don't like that its base power is 5, so you're getting insert sorcery with 5 or less, and most of the big spells you want are either X spells or they're 7. But you can always buff them. Lorehold Pledge Mage, 1 Boros with first strike. It's of course Shaman. Then whenever you cast, it has Magecraft, so whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It's a 2/2. Good and limited, probably not going to be played anywhere else. Lorehold Campus. I'm assuming they're going to make a cycle of these. It's an uncommon land that taps red or white, and for 4 generic, you can scry 1. I like that they're giving mana fixing in the common slot. And it is in the common slot, it's not in the land slot. So we'll see if they put it in lands, but I really like this, just because I like having mana fixing in a limited environment. Illuminate History, 2 red. Sorcery Lesson. Discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. That if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. This goes back to like the looting ability that red has really leaned into hard over the years. You would get 1 red and white spirit, which is unfortunate, but if you're going to go and cast that as a vanilla common, you're probably paying 2 or 3 for that anyway, so that's 4 CMC for something that would cost 2 or 3. Plus you could go and get rid of trash cards in your hand for hopefully better cards. It's a pretty good card. You pull it from your sideboard. We'll see what kind of play it sees. I'm sure there's going to be someone that builds around it. And we'll see what happens there. I think it's going to be played in Commander for sure. We'll see if it gets played in Standard or not. Go Blank is 2 and a black. It's a sorcery. Target player discards 2 cards and exile all cards from that player's graveyard. So I actually really think that this is potentially a sideboard card post-rotation if Graveyards Matter stuff still is happening. So what I mean by that, I shouldn't even say Graveyards Matters. Well, it really is, because rogues, if that's still a thing. Prox. Oh well, we would have Proxa, but that's gonna rotate out. Escaping's rotating out. But the reason why I say post rotation is you already have stuff like Cling to Dust that you could single target the one card and get paid back for it, something in return. You have Soul Guide's Lantern. You have Tormod's Crypt. There's better options that are more flexible than Go Blank is. However, every card that I just mentioned rotates out when Innistrad comes out in September. So if Graveyard is still a thing, this card's going to get played. Spirit Summoning, 1 Boros. It's a sorcery lesson that you create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. And this is what I mean. They're going to charge you 2 or 3 mana to make a 3/2 red and white spirit token. So that 4 mana where you get to go and discard bad cards and get different cards in your hand is a really good value. It's okay. I'd probably play it in the sideboard and limited. I wouldn't play it anywhere else. Reconstruct History, 2 red and white. It's a sorcery. You return up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, instant, sorcery, and planeswalker card from a graveyard to your hand. Exile Reconstruct History. I hate this card. This card to me, in any format from except Commander, is completely unplayable. And the reason why is, for me, a card needs to be able to have some value to you if you're playing it on curve. Especially in the 4 CMC and higher slot. Because turns 1 through 3 is where you're really setting up the game. So you could have CMC 1, 2, or 3 cards that really aren't impact makers. That you could cast in late game and it not be a big deal. But at 4 CMC, that's where you're starting to get into your game plan, trying to set up your win, get to the main meat and potatoes of a game, especially in a 1v1 format. If you're casting this for 4 mana on turn 4, you're probably at most getting 1 or 2 things back, at most, unless you're playing against a rogue deck, which that's a completely different animal that this probably will never see your hand, because that's just how the RNG goes. And you're not getting a creature back, you're not getting a land back. Most people don't play planeswalkers, so you can pretty much scratch that one right off the list. So you're paying 4 mana for a chance to get an enchantment, instant, and sorcery back. So 4 mana for 3 cards. Oh, I'm sorry, 4 mana for 4 cards. You also have your artifact. In Standard, unless you're playing like Maze Mind Tome, or you're either in Standard, you're either playing artifacts or you're playing enchantments. You're not typically playing both. So you can rotate down to 3 cards. I won't play this card. It's bad. Don't play it. Unless you're playing Commander, and in Commander, getting this turn 6, turn 7 in Commander can turn your game around. So play it there. Blade Historian. Boros, 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 Boros. Human Cleric. With attacking creatures you control, have double strike. It's a 2/3. This reminds me of the Eldraine Knight that is for Boros as well. But that one's uncommon and only gives itself double strike. So essentially all you need to do is make it rare to give everything double strike. This is going to be a house in a Winota deck. A house. Winota's coming back, and she's going to be a problem. We'll see what happens. A free Flame Painter. 3 in a red, double strike. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So it's my problem with this card is it doesn't have evasion. If you were able to give this creature some form of evasion, this card becomes very good. Without the evasion, and only having 1 power, it's probably not going to do a lot. So give it evasion, swing in, you're good to go. Not giving it evasion, you're kind of out of luck. Strict Proctor, it's 1 and a white. It's a spirit cleric with flying that whenever a permanent enters the battlefield is a triggered ability to trigger, counter that ability unless its controller pays 2. So at first, when I thought of this card, I'm like, okay, it's a taxing effect, but ETBs just don't happen. And then I thought about it more. And it's a taxing effect where ETBs just don't happen. So, put this in a Mardu deck with Kroxa. When it ETBs, sure you don't get to go and make your opponent discard, but you also don't have to sacrifice Kroxa. Play bounce land as a commander. Your bounce land gets to go and stay on the battlefield without returning another land because you may pay that too. You don't have to. This card gives you, as the controller of the creature, a lot of benefits where you can go and abuse it while slowing down your opponent. Now, I don't know how much play it's going to see, but it's a lot better than I first gave it credit for in my mind. I'm really intrigued by it. Hushbringer is probably still better, but Hushbringer does cost 1 more mana, but I still like it a lot. Heated Debate, 2 in a red, instant that can't be countered. It deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Take this in draft as many times as you can. It's going to be a sideboard card probably in Standard and in Historic because of the can't be countered ability. Not really going to be played in too many other formats. I should say other formats I play like Commander, because you have other better spells in Commander. But this will probably see play in standard sideboards, and it's going to be a house in drafts. Reduced to Memory, 1 and 2 white. Exile target non-land permanent. Its control creates a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. It's a good exile effect. Probably won't see standard play. Probably won't see limited play. Probably won't see commander play. But limited, it's a card I want to take because removal is typically, if you're removing a non-land permanent, it's because it's problemsome. So, or you could also even make your 1/1 vanilla into a 3/2 spirit. That's something else that could also work out for you in your favor. I'm torn on it. Like, part of me wants to say take it every time unlimited. Part of me wants to say pass it. It's a meh card. Throwing Discovery, a red and a white. It's a sorcery, gain 2 life, then you may discard 2 cards. If you do, draw 3. Really good impulsive draw call. I'd play it. Probably not in standard or historic or anything like that. But if I'm playing Boros and I need to go and card draw, I'd probably take this. Hoffrey, Ghostforge, 3, a red and a white. It's a dwarf cleric legend. Spirits you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Except it's a spirit in addition to its other type than it has when this creature leaves the battlefield. Return the exile card to your graveyard. This card is awesome. Because I want to play Quintorius. So this pairs well with this. Don't know how much you're going to see it in a standard play. I don't know how much you're going to see it in a limited play. It is Mythic after all. But it's going to be played in Commander. Probably typically as the Commander. Possibly even in the 99 of some Commander decks. Some people have already pointed out that you can go and play this in a with Underworld Breach, Dockside Extortionist, and a sack outlet, and essentially create infinite treasures, or a lot of treasures with Dockside Extortionist, and either milling your opponents out or milling yourself out while doing it. It's pretty cool because, and how you do that is you play Underworld Bridge, you sacrifice Dockside Extortionist to Altar of Dementia, mill, cast Dockside Extortionist, then when it goes to the graveyard, you end up exiling, getting a token copy of Dockside. So you get treasures there. You then sacrifice this token copy to the altar, bringing the regular Dockside back to your graveyard, sacrificing, then using Underworld Bridge to cast that Dockside, and starting the loop all over again. Who knew? Dockside Extortionist is a really good card. This card is pretty cool. Burying Books. It's 4 and a blue. It's an instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets an attacking creature. It tucks the creature by putting it second from the top. I don't like it. It's too expensive. Even at 3 mana, I wouldn't want to cast this. The art's phenomenal, though. Curate. It's an instant. It's 1 in blue. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest back on the top of your library in any order. Draw a card. I don't think this is going to see play a lot in constructed formats. I like that it's essentially Surveil 2, and it is card draw. Surveil 2, draw a card. It might see play in some commander decks that, like maybe even Muldrotha, that wants stuff in your graveyard. A deck like that. But I don't really see it seeing too much play. It's pretty cool, but not playable cool. Sparring Regimen, it's 2 and a white. That when it enters the battlefield, you learn. That's the mechanic where you return a lesson card or you loot. Whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature and untap it. So it grows your creature and gives it pseudo-vigilance. I'm not in love with this card. I don't hate this card. I could see it being played in some decks. Getting the lesson is nice. Getting the loot ability is nice. I just don't know how much play I would be playing of this. It's probably a niche card that will go in niche decks, but not see widespread play. Master of Symmetries. It's 2 and 2 green. Has reach, and whenever a creature you control with power equal to its toughness attacks, it gains trample until end of turn. This is a cool mechanic, and I like that they're designing different mechanic spaces. And to know how good this is going to be in a limited format, I'd have to go and see how many creatures have symmetrical power and toughness. It's probably not going to see play anywhere else because, just off the top of my head, the creatures that I at least play in Standard do not have matching toughness and power. They are different. You're talking about rogues. You're talking about Bone Crusher Giant. Sure, you have Lovestruck Beast. Yeah, it's just not enough to make this playable. Especially at 4 mana. There's better creatures at 4 mana right now. Like, would you rather this or would you rather Questing Beast? Campus Guide, it's 2 generic. Then when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and then shuffle and put that card on top. Fantastic limited card that offers mana fixing. Don't like it for any other format. Relic Sloth, 3 a red and a white. Vigilance and Menace. It's a 4/4 top end in a limited deck. I don't like it in any other format, really. But the fact that you get the keyword Vigilance and Menace is nice. Illustrious Historian. Human Shaman, that for 5 mana you could exile from your graveyard and create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Pretty good filler card. Because late game you can just go and get this and get another token in limited. Probably nowhere else, but good filler. Then you have this Bomb. It's another MDFC. The red side, it's Flame Scroll Celebrant, 1 in a red. Human Shaman, that whenever an opponent activates an ability that isn't a mana ability, Flame Scroll Celebrant deals 1 damage to that player. 1 in a red, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. You know, activated abilities. You don't have too much of them running around in standard other than Planeswalkers and Mazemind Tome. And, you know, equipments maybe. Because the equipping an equipment is an ability. Other than that, you really don't have too many. Most of them are mana abilities. However, in Commander, it could be a good punishment card. But speaking of Commander, the backside is where it really shines. Revel in Silence is 2 white. Your opponents can't cast spells or activate Planeswalker loyalty abilities this turn. Exile Revel in Silence. If you're playing white, well, if you're playing Boros, I should say, you're playing this in Commander if you're playing in a competitive style of deck. You cast this, if this doesn't get countered, you go for your win. Because the only one that can stop you from getting your win at that point is yourself. Unless your opponent has something on the board that has an activated ability that can stop you. This is a great defensive play. Play this card, it will do wonders. But that is the final card for today. Let me know your opinions on the cards. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? I know I had some very strong opinions on these. But I appreciate you guys watching the video. And yet again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.